Hello, everyone, and welcome to Southsider Studios' newest show, Cinesmack, a podcast where every episode we discuss and compare two similar films to find out which one walks out of the ring and the other one lies bleeding on the mat. I am your host and referee, Mike Keeler. And joining me are four fellow filmmakers, Tom Haggis from Cheshire Moon Films.
Hello.
Sam Twomey, executive producer of the Des Moines 48 Hour Film Project.
Hello.
Gabe Rowald from One Genome Short Productions.
Hello, everyone.
And our very own Mark Johnson from Southsider Studios.
How's it going, Mike?
Well, welcome, guys. This is our first episode. And it's a holiday episode at that. Don't everyone say anything.
Christmas rocks!
Bring the smack down to Christmas.
All right, well, I guess you guys are wanting to start right off, so here is our own ring announcer, Ronwell, to announce the two films.
In the first corner, from 1988, directed by Richard Donner, Scrooged, starring Bill Murray, Karen Allen, and Robert Mitchum. And in the second corner, from 2009, directed by Robert Zemeckis, A Christmas Carol, starring Jim Carrey, Gary Oldman, and Bob Hoskins.
All right, there we go. Scrooged versus the new Christmas Carol. Let's go ahead and we'll start with round one, which is our writing round. What'd you guys think?
Well, I think Charles Dickens did a really good job writing the original story. I think all of us will agree on that.
Yes, he did.
Yes,
I think Dickens is a hack and a lousy excuse for a human being, I think. But that's just my opinion.
Oh, starting off strong, Mark.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Cinesmack. Bring it on. Okay, I'm a little excited. Sorry.
Well, Robert Zemeckis did write the screenplay for A Christmas Carol. You know, Charles Dickens couldn't do it. He was too busy at the time. So, did you guys, I mean, which one did you prefer? Did you prefer Scrooged writing over the Christmas Carol writing? I mean, what do you think?
I think the Christmas Carol kind of wrote itself. I was happy that he kind of stuck true to the book. Mm-hmm. But the way Scrooge was able to modernize it and shift everything over to the whole TV producer setting, I thought that was pretty impressive. So,
okay,
yeah, I thought maybe Zemeckis stayed a little too true to the original work, especially with like the old English dialogue. There were a few scenes that went by where I'm like, what did they just say? What just happened? They need to start speaking less English and more American. Come on.
Yeah, I agree in that it was impressive that they took Scrooged and modernized it, but I didn't feel like the writing was particularly strong. It was creative, but I'm not sure that the writing was all that compelling to me. I think I enjoyed the writing, maybe because it was more true to the novel of A Christmas Carol a little bit better.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the take on Scrooged. It was a film that I saw so many times growing up on cable and whatnot. It's truly a different story. It's kind of merged with Bill Murray's stand-up act in some ways, and so it's in some ways the core of the writing necessarily is not as classical, but I don't know, the 2009 Christmas Carol just kind of, it was hard for me to connect the visuals, get past the visuals to even enjoy the writing, and that's how it really struck me.
one of the things about A Christmas Carol I thought was interesting that I was born in the mid-'70s, so all of the versions of A Christmas Carol that I've usually seen have involved either Mickey Mouse or the Muppets in some way. Mm-hmm. So in my mind it was it's like they tried to stretch a story out, and I kept watching it going, are we still with the Ghost of Christmas Past? I mean, Mickey
Right.
Mouse whipped through this in 5 minutes. Why is this taking so long?
Well, yeah, when I was watching it, I was taking notes. I wrote in a couple of places, they're kind of just showing off right here. There were points where it's like, look how cool this technology is. Look what we can do with this kind of stuff. And it wasn't really. It was like, okay, we're not really moving the storytelling forward at this point. We're just kind of showing off.
Yeah, they really liked the candle ghost. I mean, they stuck on him for a long time, and it was just, and I didn't even think it was really all that impressive. So I'm sure we'll talk about the animation later.
Yeah, he was my least favorite of them too.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean the flame kind of thing, knowing that they, digitally created the flame, was pretty cool. But I didn't like the performance. I don't know. That was my least favorite of the ghosts.
Okay. Well, to me, that was the best part of the film. Was just I really liked how they did that ghost. Like a flickering flame. It was really kind of freaked me out in the first few moments of that ghost being around, and then I got used to it, and then I really liked it. So, yeah, probably my least favorite was Ghost of Christmas Future. In my opinion, that's usually the one I look forward to the most. Someone's typing.
Not me.
And it stops, and no one says it was me.
No one's going to claim it.
It was one of the ghosts.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so if you guys were to score round one, who would you score it to? Which film?
Say Scrooged.
I second that for Scrooged.
I'm going to have to go with Christmas Carol. I didn't feel like Scrooge, personally, for me, it was creative, but it wasn't necessarily all that strong of writing in my mind.
Okay.
And I think I'll probably going to go with Scrooged. I think A Christmas Carol was pretty good, but again, it just stayed so true to the book. Scrooge gets extra points for the creativity.
All right. Right on.
I don't know if it was mentioned before, but Scrooge was written by Mitch Glazer and Michael O'Donoghue.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Did they? Is there a reference? Did they write other things that we would know?
Oh,
that's what I'm
that's
looking
a
up
good
right
question.
now. Looks like The Recruit, Great Expectations, and Three of Hearts. Wow.
Three of Hearts.
Yeah, 93.
It looks like Mitch was a writer on Saturday Night Live for a little bit.
Yep. Mitch Glazer there.
Mm.
And let's see, I'll look up Michael O'Donoghue. I love the interweb. Saturday Night Live. A lot of Saturday Night Live.
Not surprising. There's obvious relations there.
Yep. Yeah, a whole lot of Saturday Night Live there. So let's go ahead and we'll go to round two, which is acting. How'd you guys feel about the performances given in each film? Like, did they get the right actor for the right role, or did they miss it?
Would I be out of line to say that Jim Carrey was a little overused in A Christmas Carol?
No, I can agree with that. And his performance varied. As some characters I liked him in, as others I didn't. And again, I didn't really like him as that Ghost of Christmas Past. I thought it was a strange performance. He whispered a lot, and it was I don't know. It was just almost too creepy. I realize ghosts are supposed to be creepy, but it was like just unsettling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it was in the Christmas Carol. It was hard for me to put some of those great vocal performances with the animation, because I think some of it was like listening to great dialogue as told by like a mannequin. And I would love to see some of if it was real life, those actors' expressions. And it was hard for me to put some kind of personal attachment to what I was watching. Whereas in Scrooge, I felt I could very easily understand where the comedy was coming from and relate to some of those characters.
Sam, let me ask you a question since you're talking about that. When you were watching it, there were a couple moments when. Especially with the Ghost of Christmas Present, and there were scenes with Ebenezer where you could see Jim Carrey coming out through the animation, and it was those, and there were not a lot of them, but there were some moments where I suddenly forgot I was watching computer animation, and the rest of the time I was completely creeped out by the animation. But
Yeah,
did you ever find yourself doing that?
Yeah, I agree. I think there were some points that were really good, but then when it came to some of the ancillary characters who also had very strong voice performances, it felt like, as much attention, of course, was paid on Jim Carrey and whatnot, but some of the other ones come off as, like Bob Hoskins and I don't know, just like seeing it was more like video gamey to me, and some of it.
Yeah.
See, it felt like a lot like a video game to me. Like 98% of it was like I didn't really care for the animation. There was a couple of good spots that Sam was talking about, and Gary Oldman looked like a rejected video game character.
Yeah, little mini Gary Oldman really freaked me out.
Yeah. And, okay.
Did you know?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, did you know he also played Tiny Tim? Gary Oldman.
Yes, he was Tiny Tim and Marley.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Some of those choices didn't make sense to me. Like Daryl Sabera plays 4 or 5 characters, and Carrie always played 3 characters. I mean, I guess if this were like a stage production, it would be neat to have the same actors play multiple parts, and there'd be costume changes. But if you're doing all this in a computer or on a blue screen soundstage, why not get a large ensemble like Scrooge did?
Yeah. That's what I think A Christmas Carol's always been known for, is bringing in large amounts of actors to tell this story. And it was just kind of strange to see Jim Carrey and Gary Oldman in so many characters when it would have been a great opportunity for other actors.
Right. And I don't know if any of you guys watch any of the special features with it, but I didn't realize that it was all that motion capture stuff. So they're actually doing some of these performances physically, and they're recording their expressions and their facial movements and that kind of stuff. So when Sam, you were saying Jim Carrey came out in that character, well, in certain instances it almost literally was Jim Carrey. I mean, they used his face to model that character, and it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder what the point of that is, though. If you're going to go through that much trouble to make a computer character look so much like the actor that's doing the voice, what's the point? Why not just do live action?
Well, especially when I think the final product isn't quite there yet where they want it to be. It still has a weird kind of visual factor to me. And why go to all that expense to show, we can show it's a representation of him, but it's him. But it still looks weird, and that thing doesn't, I just didn't like this movie, I'll be very honest. I wouldn't recommend it to my nieces or anyone in my family. There's so many other good retellings of this classic tale. And, for me, Disney should have stopped at that Mickey Carol that Tom talked about earlier.
That's my favorite, by the way.
I mean, I don't know if this is a good point to talk about it, but the whole Robert Zemeckis, motion capture animation, the trip he's been on, since Polar Express and Beowulf, and I gotta say, I mean, those 2 movies just really kind of bothered me. I didn't like them that much, but like the buildings and the snow and the fire and the water was all just knocked my socks off. But anytime there was a person on the screen, it just kind of drove me nuts, and just I couldn't connect with the characters at all. And I mean, are any of you guys familiar with this concept of the uncanny valley?
Yeah, I was going to mention that too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on.
Absolutely. The closer and closer they get to the human form, whether it be like a robot or computer animation, the more distance it creates between them and the audience. I mean, and God bless Robert Zemeckis for trying to bridge that gap. But I just aside from maybe 2 or 3 spots in the movie, I don't think it ever happened. So,
well, I think it's an important quick point to point out. I did not see the 3D version of it, and a lot of the reviews and other experiences, commented on how Christmas Carol was kind of a 3D vehicle in a way for Disney to get that Christmas business by being 3D. And I missed that experience. Maybe I would have enjoyed it more if it had more, to offer to me.
Well, you could tell that was made for 3D. Just some of the gags that they do in the film are definitely, in there just to get the audience that is watching it in 3D. Not necessarily those of us that watched it at home, but it's there to get the people in the theater. And going back to the whole uncanny valley thing, do you guys think that, you know, in a couple years that there will be no need for actors. I mean, you know, let alone like good-looking actors like we have now. You know, like they're always looking for, you know, the best-looking actor and actress to portray something. You know, a lot of
we
times.
know you all hate. We know you hate Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Just get it out of your system now. Just air it out now. You just don't like the way they look. Go on.
But do you think that this is going to make it kind of a thing of the past to see a real film made? Is it going to be this blue green screen motion capture, you know, wearing a funny little suit just to make a movie? I mean, are the audiences going to want to go to that?
I think the people are going to go to the movies and they want to connect with the characters they see on screen. And now with Avatar, which came out a month after this movie, I thought the motion capture stuff was great. I mean, I don't get into the merits of Avatar, but strictly from the motion capture side of it, that movie is 100 times better than A Christmas Carol, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like that really works in the case of Avatar, but nowhere close in this film.
But one of the reasons that it works in Avatar is that James Cameron made a conscious choice to make the Na'vi people so not human, you know,
right.
with their you know extreme features and blue skin, that he didn't have to worry about the uncanny valley because there were no computer animated humans in the movie. So the people moved a little strangely and they moved a little bit differently. While you could attribute it to computer animation, he didn't have to worry about people not connecting with the characters because they automatically took a step back because they weren't human. So
I don't know a lot about the... Oh, sorry, go on.
But I was just going to say, and I thought, you know, obviously with the dollar signs, it was a great move. It was really a really smart way to deal with the uncanny valley in that sense.
Well, now, I don't know a lot about the production of Avatar, but the non-Pandora stuff, where it's just the scientists sitting around talking, wasn't that the same kind of computer-generated acting, or was that... Or was
No,
that
I don't think so.
Straight film? Okay.
I think that was straight film, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was live action.
Okay. And see, I saw it in 3D, and everything sort of had a digital gloss to it, so I guess I didn't pick up on that.
Okay, so I guess out of the acting category,
Scrooge is good too.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about Scrooge.
Yeah, what about Scrooge? What are your guys' feelings about that? Because I have a few feelings about it, and I'll wait till you guys share yours, and I'll step in. But
yeah, I felt like the acting wasn't really all that great in Scrooged. I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Scrooged a lot, but having seen Bill Murray in other roles, you know, like Lost in Translation or Broken Flowers or something like that, I know that he's got acting talent, and maybe he hadn't developed that talent yet. You know, back then maybe it was still kind of the slapstick comedy shtick kind of, you know, the Bill Murray that we know from Saturday Night Live kind of thing. But I didn't feel like the acting was terribly strong. And I don't know if I should attribute that to the actors or to the director. And, you know, maybe that's for our next round. But I didn't feel like the acting was all that great in Scrooged.
Well, I had no idea that at the time that, you know, some of the people that reviewed this film really didn't like it at all. Like, I had no idea that Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, they split on it, basically. Siskel liked it, and Ebert wrote this horrible review saying very much the same things that you just said, Gabe, about, you know, his acting was weird at times, and then also his delivery of some jokes went so 90 degrees from the story that it didn't flow as well as it could. To me, the scope of Scrooge, it's a quirky comedy, and that's kind of how it's set up. And it's a perfect post Ghostbusters vehicle for Bill Murray, and also at the same time that, you know, it has those feel good elements, but also the ensemble cast. You know, I don't think it's not Shakespeare they're performing, but the fact that, you know, Jamie Farr's there, and, you know, Mary Lou Retton, and you know, it's those little nuggets of just like fun, you know, almost kind of like a toned down Airplane almost. But I think that's what they were going for, and they definitely hit their mark in a lot of ways. Is it the best acting? Not absolutely. Is it something that you can feel good about and really makes you laugh? It does for me.
Yeah, I think it was probably suitable for that.
I really loved the fact that Buddy Hackett was Scrooge in the play in Scrooged. Like, I couldn't see him being a mean penny pinching, kind of Scrooge character. I would have wanted to see that play. I would have wanted to see that TV production where Buddy Hackett was Scrooge. That's good casting right there.
I also want to mention that I think there was probably some typecasting, because I found out later that there's a scene where he's trying to talk to Claire, and there's the hammering going on, and then he tells them to stop, and eventually they show the one guy hammering, and he stops, and the whole set falls down. Well, the guy who was hammering, the actor's name was Alvin Hammer.
Nice.
So I think maybe there was a little bit of typecasting going on.
I personally love. Well, no, wait. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
What about Scrooge?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. It was kind of, it goes to what I was actually saying about Christmas Carol. About one of the fun things about watching all these different variations of Christmas Carol is who do you put in all of these roles? And Carol Kane and what's his name, David Johansen. Buster Poindexter as the Ghost of Christmas Past was awesome. And Bobcat, he's awesome in everything he does. So, it was fun to go back and watch this movie, because there were a lot of people that I learned about comedy when I was growing up, my adolescence, from these people, and I thought that was it was pretty cool to see them again. So, and I'm going to trail off.
Well, for me, Scrooged is, I totally agree. You have to have that ensemble cast. Like, you have to have a large cast if you're doing a Christmas Carol take. That's also what bothered me about A Christmas Carol was, the fact that Jim Carrey played all these parts. And I didn't even know that Tiny Tim was being played by Gary Oldman, but it just, I don't know. Were they trying to save on money when they did that? I don't know what they were trying to do, but I mean, you got like Lee Majors coming in to save Santa.
That was funny. That beginning sequence was hilarious.
And Robert Mitchum,
Robert Goulet.
Yeah, Robert Goulet. And Robert Mitchum, who to me just reminds me of my grandfather so much. Like, I connect with Robert Mitchum for some reason, and I love him in this movie. And even though he's not in it for that long, and you also have John Glover. I mean, you have Lex Luthor's dad from Smallville in there is some kind of hippie Californian, that's trying to get in. And like Sam said, you got Klinger. I mean, he's not wearing a woman's dress either. And you can't go wrong with Buddy Hackett as Scrooge. That's awesome. And
I think. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
And I love Bobcat Goldthwait. Like, my favorite movie of his is Hot to Trot. We were discussing it last night. But it just, I don't know. To me, Scrooge, in my opinion, was just, I think they went that extra step.
Mike, have you seen World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams?
No, I haven't.
You need to check that. Bobcat directed that.
Oh, okay.
It's dark comedy. Just so you know, it's good stuff. It's pretty funny. So
I'll check it out. Maybe I'll make it on the list. Huh?
There you go.
All right, so let's go ahead and figure out who you want to score the movie to for acting. We'll start with Sam.
Scrooged.
Tom.
You know what? Overall, like, acting ability, I'm gonna have to give it to Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Despite everything I said, just because I think on the merits of the acting.
Okay.
But I'll take it right back when we get to directing, I'm sure.
All right, Mark.
I'm going to go with Scrooged.
All right, and Mr. Ruhlwald?
Well, I'm going to have to go with A Christmas Carol as well, but only slightly.
Okay.
Because from an acting standpoint, I didn't feel like the acting in Scrooged was terribly good. But the casting, like you were talking about, was actually phenomenal. And that it did make it truly enjoyable. So,
okay.
But acting-wise, I think Christmas Carol for me.
All right. So let's move on to round 3, which is directing. Let's start with Mark.
Oh boy. It's funny because Robert Zemeckis gets like all the cool toys, you know. I mean, he gets to use this CGI. He gets basically, you know, any shot he wants. He can sort of move the film from scene to scene, location to location, time to time, with these really slick, you know, Millennium Falcon cruising through space kind of shots. Whereas Richard Donner in his limited 80s technology has to do these like hard cuts in between different periods and different times. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I guess I like Robert Zemeckis a little bit over Donner in this instance. Not to give away my thing or my, you know, my tally at the beginning of my critique, but the one thing with Donner though is that he brings back a lot of his actors from the Lethal Weapon series. Mm-hmm. Like they had like Riggs and Murtaugh's boss and the psychologist and the lady who drove the armored car in Lethal Weapon 3, and I don't know, like it kind of called back to those movies to me. So that kind of gave me warm and fuzzies that I didn't get from Christmas Carol.
You know, Riggs and Murtaugh's boss was Richard Donner, right?
I didn't think that was Richard Donner. I thought that was a different actor that kind of looks like Richard Donner.
No, that's. Are you sure? Maybe it isn't. Okay, I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong.
So this is a crooked referee.
I've been taking money on the side, see?
Well, and the other thing is they had the Free South Africa signs in the movie.
Yeah, did you see that too? I started laughing.
Free South Africa, you dumb son of a bitch.
Yeah, you dumb son of a bitch.
So I don't know. Like I said, those things were very familiar to me. You could tell there was, you know, Richard Donner was using the people he's, you know, accustomed to using, but as far as, you know, technical side, I mean, Robert Zemeckis has all the tools in the world at his disposal. So,
okay, go ahead, Tom.
And you know what? It's for that reason too that I'd have to give it to Richard Donner. Is that you know, if I could put my actors anywhere I want and frame it up perfectly and set the lighting exactly how I want, and you know, directing isn't just about the you know, the composition on the screen, and the fact that Zemeckis got to control every single pixel to his whim. I think it's kind of cheating. You know, not to go back to Avatar, but I'm going to anyway. When Avatar won for Best Cinematography, it really kind of irked me because I was like, well, yeah, it was Best Cinematography, but it was, you know, it was all controlled and it was done in a computer. The lighting and everything was done after the fact. And having shot a film and having to deal with all of those things with, you know, moving bodies and light and shadows and, you know, framing stuff up in the screen to, you know, get a mood across to the audience. I can't give it to Robert Zemeckis because I know that what they work on this film for 3 years. I mean, I'd have to give it to Richard Donner because, you know, he did more with less.
Right on. All right. Let's go to Gabe.
Yeah, you know, I think I can agree with that as well. That, you know, in the special features of A Christmas Carol, they actually talk to Zemeckis about it, and he says things like, "I can put the camera anywhere, I can make the weather anything, I can do anything with the lighting," and that kind of filmmaking is really for the super duper anal retentive control freak type of directors. You know, and that's why James Cameron loves it, because you hear all these stories about James Cameron. You know, if only I didn't have to have actors. Well, now he doesn't really. I mean, and even if he does have actors, he can manipulate everything about their performance afterward. So, you know, it seems to me like, you know, I think there's obviously still some talent and skill in making those decisions, mm-hmm. you know, afterward. But it does feel a little bit like cheating. So between these two, yeah, I'd have to agree that Scrooged definitely did do more with less. So I can go with that.
Okay, Sam.
Well, this is, to me, it's a hard decision. I really didn't like Christmas Carol, but I think in some ways that Donner may have had an easier task, being that it looked like the chemistry would have been good on a set like this. Everyone was at Murray was at the height of his career. They were kind of tagging it, after the success of Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
So it was probably an easy set and a fun light film to do. Whereas on the other side, I could not even imagine the task that, because Zemeckis does have this total control, when you say, you can do anything, then some of the tough decisions have to come, you have to limit the scope of these minds. And maybe that's why some of these motion capture movies take so long and can be, 7, 3, 5, 7 years in production, because they have all these decisions. And it's a miracle that some of them come out at all. Because when you have that much control over all of your tools, you have to in some ways rein it in. And for also dealing with 3D, and that's I'm sure there's a lot of pressure from Disney on that end. And then also the story, it was kind of dark for what someone might see for a Disney film, and I think some kids would be scared by this version. And so I think Zemeckis actually didn't go the super tug at your heartstrings route, and neither did Scrooged. But I don't know. I think in a really, really close race, I'm going to have to give it to, God, I don't even want to say it, Zemeckis.
Okay. Well, I just found out that that guy's name is Steve Cahan. Mark?
The boss?
Yeah. No, not the boss. Well, the Riggs and Murtaugh's boss, and he's actually the cousin of Richard Donner. And
I can see that.
He's in a lot of movies, so that's why he looks like him. He's in Demolition Man, Maverick, Conspiracy Theory, Timeline, 16 Blocks. Yeah, he's in a lot. But okay, so for me, I'm gonna have to. I don't know. I really agree with both sides of the story. The one thing another thing I did enjoy with the Christmas Carol was that super long one take where they're flying through London, they're flying through the streets. After you see Scrooge leave the funeral home or the mortician or whatever you want to call it, while they're doing the credits. Like, to me, that was impressive. But like you guys say, I have this world that I can create in a computer. I don't have to go out with a crane and 100 crewmen to get this shot done. And it doesn't have to take me a week to just get this one shot. It'll take me a week for a computer animator to do it, but maybe even longer, and a team of animators on it. But the point is, Scrooged was made, so kind of far back. It still had some great special effects, I think, especially for the Christmas or the Ghost of Christmas Future. I thought the effects for that particular one were just outstanding. But for me, I don't know. I'm really kind of lost on who I'd have to side with. So once again, let's go ahead. We'll get your guys' votes. Tom?
For directing?
Yeah.
I go with Scrooged.
Okay. Mark?
Just real quick, something I did bring up before. I felt like Donner was a little bit out of his element in this. I'm looking at his IMDb, and he did The Lethal Weapons and Assassins and Goonies. And this is more of a, sort of straight comedy kind of thing. And I think that's maybe what made the direction seem a little off for me. Like, he was sort of out of his comfort zone. So I'm going to go with Zemeckis.
All right. Sam?
Yeah, it's a good point, Mark. I'm going to go with Zemeckis.
All right. And Gabe?
Yeah, it is a tough one. Because before I was talking about the acting, and I felt like, was it really the acting or was it the directing that I didn't like? And I couldn't tell in Scrooged. But then, and then with the Christmas Carol, it's like, I don't know. Clearly, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And, I felt like he probably made a lot of good decisions in making that movie. So yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm still gonna go with Scrooged.
All right. Let's go ahead and we'll go to round 4, which is our overall, well, not ours, your overall take on the films. And we'll start with our last one, Gabe.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, they're so different from each other. I mean, even though the source material is the same, they are so dramatically different from each other in so many ways. And they were each enjoyable in their own ways. Tom was saying before, like when you're watching A Christmas Carol and you're like, oh my God, look at the snow, look at the buildings, look at all those kinds of things. And I just marveled at times at some of the things that they would do, like the textures, like the leather and wood and cloth and those kinds of things. I was like, wow, that's just amazing. That the detail they went into it, but I think that for me, the best measure of a film is the emotional impact that it has on you. And I have to say that Scrooged, in the end, had a stronger emotional impact on me. And maybe it had something to do with the Uncanny Valley. I couldn't identify with those kind of strange, creepy-looking characters in
Almost
A Christmas
human.
Carol. Yeah, almost, but not quite. They're moving around. They have kind of the same movements as human beings, but their eyes don't have the same life to them, or something. I don't know. So I felt like I felt more of an emotional attachment to the characters in Scrooged, and the ending was more satisfying to me in Scrooged.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
All right.
I agree with Gabe's take on the end of Scrooged. For some reason, that hit me emotionally better than the end of Christmas Carol. So, and just watching the two movies, I could see myself hanging out on that TV set soundstage in Scrooged and just having a fun time. Whereas, the set of Christmas Carol was probably just this giant green screen with no emotion to it, And I feel like that sort of comes across comes out in the final product. So I'd have to rate Scrooged over Christmas Carol.
Okay. Sam or Tom?
Yeah,
I'll go ahead. And go ahead, Tom.
I enjoyed both of them kind of differently. I mean, Scrooge was nostalgic, because I saw it 22 years ago, and Christmas Carol, the animation, aside from the people, of course, was unbelievable, and I really enjoyed that. There was actually a scene when his girlfriend is breaking up with him, and I could have sworn they had just stuck Robin Wright Penn in the scene because she was so lifelike. And it was that one moment, and it lasted maybe 5 seconds, where I actually leaned into the TV screen to get a better look at it. Where I was like, Robert Zemeckis might one day be able to pull off an entire movie. It's going to take a while, but
Right.
And just a little thing like that was able to carry me through the entire movie. With the emotional impact, I'd have to say also, Christmas Carol, while the movie as a whole didn't emotionally impact me, but I got to the end and I felt like I wanted to go find the book and read the book as Charles Dickens wrote it, to see this person, to see Scrooge transform into this, caring, giving person. Because I feel, Dickens probably did it better than anybody's ever done it. Mm-hmm. But I have to say that when it comes down to it, which one of these movies am I going to watch again down the road? It's probably Scrooged, and I'd probably have to give it my the overall to Scrooge, because I'm pretty sure I'll see it again. I don't know. Feel like Christmas Carol might get lost in the dozens and dozens of translations that people have done with the story. So, and Scrooge had Miles Davis in it for 5 seconds, and I love Miles Davis. So. he was the street musician that Bill Murray made fun of when they were walking by.
Oh, no kidding!
It was Miles Davis, Paul Schaefer, and
Paul Schaefer.
and David Sanborn, and I thought that was awesome when I saw that, because I had missed that the last 20 times I'd seen it. So, so I'm going to give my vote to Scrooge for this one.
Right on. Sam, last but not least.
Oh, not even close. I don't ever want to see Christmas Carol 2009 ever again. There's so many other good takes on it. And, like, you know, watching this and thinking about the classic tale, much like Tom, I want to go to the book. I want to go to the original source and feel those emotions. I think there's so many other great holiday films out there. You know, when you think of good holiday films, not necessarily just the classics like It's a Wonderful Life. I think Scrooge does fit in there as something that people would call a holiday classic, because it's something that it's good to watch with family, and that's, you know, it does make you laugh and smile. And while it does stay true to the story, I think the writing of it does it's a really good twist on the story, but stays true to the other characters. And seeing a female Cratchit, I think seeing her, Alfre Woodard, was amazing in that role, and that was such a real human element of that Scrooge story. That family felt real, not like a fake family at all, or overforced Cratchit. Sometimes you see these stage performances, and the Cratchits are so merry and so poor, and it's not believable. But the Alfre Woodard family was amazing, and I really liked the twist and the tale. Plus, you know, I think the line that was in Scrooge was in the original Dickens, the bitch hit me with a toaster. But they had to take that. Yeah. But, you know, lots of memorable lines. Scrooge, 100%.
All right. Now, before I tally this all up, I want to ask the four of you. You've each directed a film. You've each starred in films. You've produced them. If you were given a chance to go back to either film, what would you change? Like, what would you change the most?
If I went back and I did the Christmas Carol, I'll take the Zemeckis version of it. If I went back and did the Christmas Carol, I would take the characters and exaggerate a lot of their features, not in the same way, but similar to like how they did The Incredibles.
Okay.
Which is a computer-animated movie about a family, and you emotionally connect with the family, and they don't look human really in any way, but you're able to connect them with them though, because the animation's not trying so hard.
Right.
And that's probably the direction I would take. I would just take the humans and make them less human, so that hopefully that people can connect with it.
Okay. Anyone else?
With Scrooged, you know, we watch a lot of like Jim Carrey or Will Ferrell movies from the last 10, 15 years, and you can tell they just sort of, in some instances, just sort of let the camera run and let the guys riff and goof around. I would have let Bill Murray do that more in Scrooged. He seemed somewhat limited or restricted by the material, I think. I mean, he was able to goof off a little bit, but I think a little more improvisation would have helped. And with the Christmas Carol, I would have actually cut out the camp. There's that sort of weird scene where Gary Oldman, Cratchit, or Marley, I forget which one. He's like sliding down the street with the kids. He's like skating on the ice or whatever. Mm-hmm. I would have taken that stuff out and really just stuck to the source material.
Okay. All right. Now I want to ask you guys this, since Mark brought up, you know, a little improvisation on Bill Murray's part. When after he puts the waiter out that's on fire, and he falls in the doorway, do you think that second fall was real, or do you think that was him acting?
Yeah, I wrote that down too when I was taking notes. I'm like, did he mean to fall there, or was that an accident? Because if it was an accident, he just rolled with it, literally and figuratively.
Right.
Yeah, I wondered that myself.
I think he wins either way. Either he slipped and then pulled it off perfectly, or he did it well enough that, you know,
it sold it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I
was just wondering if I was the only one. I'm like, wow, that looked awesome. Like, I have seen a lot of people fall. I have fallen a lot myself. But
Well, see, and that just seems like one of those happy accidents that they would have had more of if they would have just let him go.
Right. Right.
Well, actually, Mark, I think if one thing I would do different if I was to be able to do Scrooge, I would actually have worked with Murray in a different way so that some of his delivery didn't necessarily go so off the course of the story, almost removing the fourth wall, that the story would maybe flow a little bit different. I think there were some takes in there that were, Murray jokes or Murray's interpretation on the line that went, kind of out there that didn't necessarily help the scene. And I know it's hard to do with a huge star attached and everything like that. But, yes, you do have to allow for some improvisation, but also you have to mesh the star in with the rest of the ensemble so it doesn't seem like it's all that person, that there's so much more to that story than just a huge star and who gives, for the most part, a memorable performance that has some really fun moments.
Sam, that's a good point. I think I always wonder if Richard Donner goes back and, he watches Rushmore or Broken Flowers or something like that and just kind of shakes his head and is like, I could have done so much more with Bill Murray on this story. It would have been nice for him to have that quiet, contemplation about what his life has been leading to. And, he does the quiet comedy almost better than he does the physical stuff. So.
Agreed.
Well, see, and for me, I mean, when you go into Scrooge, you know the material you're going to get. You're going to get the ghost. You're going to get, you know the story you're going to get. So, but when Bill Murray is attached, you kind of want to see Bill Murray sort of, work what he does into that fabric. And I just didn't get enough of it. And you talked about the fourth wall. I definitely would have taken out the last 2 minutes where he's directly talking to the audience, telling people to see. I would have cut that.
You don't see that a lot anymore in films, or is it just me? Like, you don't see them. As I misspoke last night, like Amanda and I went over to Sam's to watch Scrooge because I couldn't get it anywhere. I didn't get it in time from Netflix, so we went over and watched it over at Sam's, and I misspoke and said, "Wow, he broke the third wall." No, it's the fourth wall. That's where all the falling comes down, into play. But I don't know. I kind of like that part. It's kind of hokey when you're just sitting at home, but imagine seeing that in the theater when it happened. Just with the atmosphere and stuff, I wonder if people actually did play along with it.
What was funny at the end, you know how sometimes in movies, the character, they pan away to the ghost or something like that. I half expected, I hadn't seen Scrooge for a while, but when they panned over to see all the ghosts, I half expected to see Hayden Christensen there, but he wasn't. So, but it was still
that's
good.
on the special edition. That's on the special cut.
And Alec Guinness looks over and nods approvingly.
Yeah, we were talking about happy accidents, and Bill Murray falling down and, not knowing if that was planned or not. And I think about so many movies where those happy accidents become like key moments. Like, one of my favorite movies of all time, Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's that whole thing. I'm not sure it was necessarily a happy accident, but it was definitely unplanned, where he shoots the swordsman with the giant sword. That you think, oh, there's going to be a big battle here, and then that was all improv, and that's one of the great moments. And I think, like when you're doing a movie like A Christmas Carol, where you have complete control over that kind of stuff, those moments get lost completely. Those happy accidents just don't happen. And I feel like maybe those movies lose out because of that. You don't get those moments.
Well, I mean, we have all gotten those happy accidents while we're making a film. I know that some of my favorite stuff from some of the other independent films in Des Moines that I've seen, I'll tell them the part that I loved, and they're like, "Yeah, that was totally by accident." That we just let them go, and that's where I agree. If I would do it, I would just let Bill Murray just run amok. Like, I'd be like, "Give me 2 good takes, Bill, and then you can have 2 of your own." And you could have done that with Jim Carrey if it was maybe a live action version, but when you're spending all this money on this computer generated stuff, it's kind of hard to be able to just let them run wild.
Well,
or would it be easier?
That's an interesting point. Like, what if the stars were reversed? Jim Carrey might have been able to, go for those extra takes. Imagine him in Scrooge at the height of his career, and then Bill Murray in this role, which I don't think it would work for Murray, but weird thought.
And one of the things about Jim Carrey and letting him go, some of my least favorite Jim Carrey movies are the ones where you don't actually get to see Jim Carrey. The ones where they try to do something else and they hide him. He's got such a great, physical acting style. His face is so, pliable and expressive. And then they do these movies where they cover it up, like The Mask. It's like they try to do all the silly stuff with computer animation. And I'm thinking, Jim Carrey's face, his own face would have been better for that. It would have been funnier than the computer animation that they did. And it's kind of the same with Christmas Carol. While sometimes it did kind of, you're like, oh, Jim Carrey's face is really coming out in that animation. It still was hidden. His true talent was really kind of hidden. And so I've never really liked the movies where they hide him.
Right. Like what are some of the other ones where they've hidden him? Like Batman or was it Batman Forever? Did they really hide him for that though, or?
I've removed all not David Schumacher, Joel Schumacher movies from my memory bank.
Yeah.
So that's the horrible twin of David Schwimmer and Joel Schumacher. But no, I've removed all those movies from my mind, so I don't recall third and fourth Batman that I just read.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't even know if I've seen that one with Jim Carrey in it.
Oh, really?
I gave up way before that.
So what other one are you referencing?
Well,
I mean, just for instance.
I'm thinking of The Mask in particular.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can come up with any other examples right off the top of my head, but anything where it's where they would be just using his voice or covering up his face, it's kind of like those are the. His face and his physical movements and his expressions are, that's really where he's the best.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any closing arguments you guys would like to give? We've already talked about what you guys would do. We've already kind of scored the rounds. Are there any anything else that we missed?
No.
I just real quick want to say, I think Jim Carrey was really great in this, but it was really kind of, if you think of all the famous people that have played Ebenezer Scrooge through the years, Michael Caine, Alistair Sim, Scrooge McDuck. They're people that had a life experience, and there's something about watching a 70, 80-year-old person playing this character and seeing something real come from their life experience. And and obviously, Bill Murray probably lacked it a little bit too, since he was kind of young. I don't really know about the casting on either side of them as far as I like seeing older guys play Ebenezer Scrooge, because I feel like I'm really seeing somebody speak from their heart, saying this isn't just about Christmas time. This is about my life too. That maybe I made some mistakes also, and I didn't get that out of either one. Jim Carrey was dating Jenny McCarthy at the time, so I'm sure he had very few regrets.
Anyone else?
That's awesome.
Nope. Okay. Well, just to fill you in, Rotten Tomatoes gave Christmas Carol 53%, and it looks like Scrooge scored 63%. So 10% higher, but on IMDb, Christmas Carol has 7.0, and Scrooged has, I believe it's a 6.8. So they're pretty close in both on both websites. So, you guys ready for the final tally of the votes?
One thing I want to say real quick about that, Mike.
Yeah.
I bet I would bet dollars to donuts if you came back in 10 years, Scrooge would be higher than Christmas Carol. That Christmas Carol, the computer animated, does not translate well to a small screen.
Right.
And I think as more people watch both of these on home video, I think Scrooge will eventually, 10 years from now, be a higher score on IMDb. So there you go.
That's a good point.
Now, just to play devil's advocate to that, if you're talking 10 years from now, the way I watched this was my parents buy like every single Disney movie like ever. Like, I mean, anytime the vaults reopen, they get that copy. So I loaded it for my parents, and they got the 3D Blu-ray along with the Blu-ray and the DVD and the digital copy. So 10 years from now, maybe we're all watching on 3D TVs, and this is the version that is more future-friendly than the 80s Scrooged.
George Lucas may have come in by then and reinvented 3D version of this film, so you never know.
Right. Well, okay. So with that, each one of you maybe tell us what your favorite version of the story is.
Wait, who won first?
No. I'm gonna save it till the absolute last. I gotta keep you holding on.
Stretching it.
Yeah. So Sam, what is your favorite telling of A Christmas Carol?
Well, I was lucky enough to be in the stage version as a high school student. Like, I was able to play Scrooge. So, like, the live theater version does have, a connection because you're in the room with the experience. As far as filmed versions, I think I like Mickey's Christmas Carol for animated, and then, the original Christmas Carol, the 1950... 3 version. That would be for me.
All right. Mark.
You know what? I was so not ready for this question, and I'm scanning IMDb now. I'm going to go to somebody else.
Okay, Tom.
Oh man, I'm on the same page. No fair. Rich Little did a great job back in 1978, and
yes, he did.
I thought that one was pretty good. I don't know. I'd probably have to say the Muppets. I think did a pretty good job. So, and I know a friend that worked on the film, and I'd have to say Muppet Christmas Carol.
All right, Gabe.
Well, I'm just going to have to. I'm going to have to claim, total ignorance in my answer because, frankly, I haven't seen that many different versions of them, of the story, and. So it's hard for me to actually, in good conscience, really say which one I think is the best without seeing more of them.
More of them? All right.
Yeah, because I could say, oh yeah, the Disney one, the Scrooge McDuck one is the best, but and I'm sure I've seen it, but it's been like 100 years, and so.
Wow, you're old.
I am. I saw it even before it came out.
All right.
Before
it was conceived. Wow, conceived, really? Mark.
Okay, I'm on IMDb. I clicked on the Mickey's Christmas Carol, and just looking at the box art brought back all these memories from my childhood. I got to go with the Mickey's Christmas Carol. Because it was 26 minutes long. They were very efficient. You got to appreciate a 26-minute movie. So I'm going to go with Mickey Mouse.
Mickey's Christmas Carol. All right. Well, I have to agree with Tom. The Muppet Christmas Carol is probably the most watched by myself and probably the rest of my family. I don't know why. I also had Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. I don't know if anyone, does anyone even know who Mr. Magoo is nowadays?
I know who Mr. Magoo is, but all his stuff sort of ran together in my world, I think.
So, I'll have to agree. It's the Muppet Christmas Carol. All right. You guys ready for this? You don't need my votes this time. Let's just put it that way. There's no tie. Although you guys did tie in, looks like 2 categories. It is scored 11-5. Scrooged.
Woo!
So the first Cinesmack, our first victor, is Scrooged, while A Christmas Carol lies dead. Well, not dead. Almost near death. bloodied on the floor. So,
But the blood is very fake and creepy.
It is very
And it's voiced by Jim Carrey.
I don't identify with that blood at all.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on our first episode of Cinesmack. And next episode, we will be pitting True Grit, the 1969 John Wayne version, against the True Grit of 2010, starring Jeff Bridges and Matt Damon. So if you guys have a favorite Coen Brothers movie, John Wayne movie, or you want to discuss what we talked about this week, A Christmas Carol versus Scrooged, you can email us at cinesmack@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Tom?
Everybody, they can follow me at Oscar Radar on Twitter, or you can stop by OscarRadar.com to learn about who I'm projecting to get the 10 Best Picture nominees. And a quick pick out there for anybody that's looking for a good movie. If you can track down the movie The Incident with Martin Sheen, it is fantastic. Got Martin Sheen, Beau Bridges. It's not really on home video or anything, but if you can track it down, it is worth the watch. It's a pretty good one. I would definitely recommend it.
All right. Mark?
All right, I am on Twitter at JeremyBentham42, and I wanted to make a quick pick of it's Oscar season. There's a lot of Oscar bait out there, and I wanted to recommend a film called The Kids Are All Right. I saw it this summer at the Fleur. It's got Julianne Moore and crap. What's the other lady's name? Someone help me.
Annette Bening.
Annette Bening. Thank you. She's won Oscars. Okay.
And it's got the feature Hulk in it.
There you go. And but no, I mean Julianne Moore and Bening are very strong in this. They're a gay couple who adopted these two kids, and the birth father sort of comes back into their lives. It walks the fine line of being a comedy and a drama, and it's a very funny and a very good film. And it's going to be on all like the critics' top 10 lists this year. So check that out.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook if you want to follow me, and you can get to me through the Cinesmack Facebook page if you want to. Once I finally, become a friend of that. I have a pick.
Thanks for your support, Gabe.
Yes, I would suggest maybe going to my Twitter account, except I never tweet ever on there, so that would be kind of a waste of time. I recently saw a movie called The Matador with what's his name? James Bond, former James Bond. Help me, guys. What's his name?
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan. Thank you. Yeah, who was not great as James Bond, but he is pretty good in other roles, and he's especially good in The Matador. It's a movie that I really enjoyed. It had a lot of twists. It had a lot of unexpected stuff happening in it, and I think it's really kind of underrated and unknown.
Right on. Sam?
Well, you can always find out more information about the 48-Hour Film Project at 48hourfilm.com/Des Moines. You can also check me out, a recent thing at Iowa Indies at facebook.com/Iowa Indies. My pick for this cast is actually a television series that was premiered in British television's E4 in January of 2007. It's a great series called Skins, and it really pushes the boundaries of teenage storylines. There's lots of controversial plot lines that go throughout this series. They're redoing it for MTV. It doesn't look very good on the MTV version, but right now it's on Netflix streaming. You can check out the first three seasons of Skins. It's really an amazing television series. You should definitely check it out.
All right. Well, I think.
And wasn't Dev Patel from Slumdog Millionaire in Skins?
In the first season, yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.
And why did it seem that Sam was so much more prepared for that?
Because I went last.
Like
that's it.
Yeah, he went last. Yep. All right. So for Tom, Sam, Gabe, and Mark, this is Mike. Have a good one.
It's Christmas Eve. It's the one night of the year when we all act a little nicer. We smile a little easier. We we share a little more. For a couple of hours out of the whole year, we are the people that we always hoped we would be.
Well, I liked it because it's really an amazing technological advance. It was really pretty impressive at times.
Gabe, you ignorant slut.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.